everybody, and welcome back to Ask The Unfaithful. My name is Sam. I am thrilled that you're joining us today. And as always, I am with my counterpart, James Lanier. James, how is today going for you?
Today is going well. We had hail today, the size of like marbles or a little, yeah. So I haven't gone out to look at the cars yet. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just came out of a great session with a couple that I think they'll actually love this podcast when it actually goes live. And today is going to be a great litmus test, as always, for the unfaithful. But it's also going to be an episode filled with some metrics for the betrayed to look at their partner who's been unfaithful, man or woman, and have a bit of a kind of measuring line to measure their spouse's behavior. Today, we're talking about 5 signs the unfaithful isn't sorry yet. Our hope is that you that are watching and listening as an unfaithful can listen to this and say, maybe I haven't showed that I am sorry. Maybe I haven't shown true, authentic remorse, humility, and compassion for my choices. We're going to offer 5 signs to utilize in your own life and really kind of help you navigate through how you can authentically and genuinely show remorse, because what works out there in general marriage help kind of gets put through the wood chipper when it comes to infidelity. Right, James?
Oh, yes. For one thing, most marriage help out there is really geared toward people who have not gone through betrayal. So it's woefully inadequate because it doesn't deal with the traumatic aspect of it. That's why we always talk about you have to have people who specialize in this to help you because it is so different. So, of course, Sam, we do what we do, and that is everything surrounding infidelity and betrayal trauma. So, that's where we're going to be focusing very heavily today in terms of what are these signs, and it's very specific to this.
And I think today's going to be a good setup to look at your own life unfaithful. And I hope that you always hear voices of compassion and empathy because we've lived it, we've been through it, and we certainly get it. So let's start off. What's sign number one that the unfaithful isn't sorry yet?
Dealing with betrayal as though it's a problem to be solved, which actually can be even worse, dealing with your betrayed partner as though they are a problem to be solved. And, obviously, neither one is going to work well. This can actually show up in a lot of things like impatience. Why aren't you over this yet? What's going on? Why do I have to sit here and go over this again and again and again? Oh, well, okay. So why don't you just do this, this, and this? Maybe you should see a therapist and figure this stuff out. See how it's shoving it all off onto the partner. And when we're looking at the problem that we have actually caused as just being something to be solved, we're going to ignore the most important pieces, which are the emotional pieces, right? Which is really, if you think about our partners, they are in emotional pieces all over the ground. So the first thing that we really have to do is create what I call the prime directive. And the prime directive has to be I'm putting my partner first and I'm committing to working to never, ever harm them again.
Right.
That's my prime directive. Boom. Anything that goes against that, I'm not going to do. So I mentioned that impatience is a problem, right? Let's just say impatience is bad,
Yeah.
capital BAD, right? Why? Because this is not a problem that is going to get done quickly. It's not something that the betrayed partner is going to be able to go, okay, 3, 2, 1, I'm over it. It's because it is trauma in nature, and we're going to get into that, and that's why it takes longer. The first thing that we need to recognize, I think, is unfaithful is in order to stay within that prime directive, I'm going to take as much time with my partner as she or he needs. As much time with them as they need. In that, I need to also develop the ability to be present, fully present for what they're saying. And that, for some of us, is a very difficult thing because I didn't like feeling uncomfortable. I mean, like, really didn't like it, avoided it like the plague. So now I'm listening to Sharon talking about her pain, and that's making me uncomfortable because I don't know what to do with her pain. I caused it. I have no clue how to fix this. This is at the time, of course. And of course, I'm taking that attitude that, oh, well, maybe if I just do this, this, and this, but then, wow, what she's coming at me with all these emotions doesn't fit with my solution.
Yeah.
It doesn't go A, B, C, one, two, three. Huh? What? And so then I'm really uncomfortable. And that just pushes my ability to be present off to the side. And then my mind starts going elsewhere. I even want to get out of the room.
Yeah, I think we unfaithful, I say this all the time. We want to treat our infidelity as like Christmas lights in a big tube, and we just want to put them up in the garage, and we don't want to talk about it again until the next Christmas, right? Or some big moment comes up. That's what we want to do. We just want to compartmentalize it. And as long as we do that, the betrayed feels a host of things. We talk about it all the time, but that doesn't work to just try and put it up on the shelf and not talk about it. Trying to not talk about it is evidence that you are not safe as an unfaithful and have a whole lot of work to do. So, what's number two?
Number two is not understanding betrayal trauma. This really comes down to education. You're not going to understand it by being with a partner who has betrayal trauma. And for those who don't buy this, right, this brain stuff, as I've talked about here and there in a few of our podcasts, it's real. This is PTSD or complex PTSD. It's one or the other. It's not neither.
Right.
As I spoke about, it does actual physical damage to the brain. There's actually parts of the brain that change shape, like they've been beaten or had a chunk taken out of them. So it's absolutely real. What that does is it changes our partner's brain functioning. And then that's going to make them seem like they can't understand things, like they're confused all the time. And guess what? They are.
Yeah.
The deal with that, though, is if we do not take the time to study what's happening in betrayal trauma, and there are some very good videos out there. There's one on the hopeforus.com website. Like I said, it's a bit older, so I would actually change a few things now, but nothing major, right? It still holds. So watch that, read up on it. There's lots of books out there on it. You have to ask your question, why would I do that, man? Why would I read all of that stuff? Well, it helps you get what's happening with your partner. It shows commitment. It also allows you to relate better. And if you're relating better, you're going to be able to learn how to empathize, present, all the things that we always talk about. You have to ask yourself, if I met a veteran, a combat veteran, or first responder, or an abused child, am I going to tromp all over him? It's the same in the brain for a betrayed partner, literally the same. Studies show that it's at the same level. And guess what? We did that. So let's not do it anymore. Because if we don't learn about it, we are doing it. Beyond that, guess what? It can be fixed. The brain is beautifully plastic. It can change. That's called plasticity. So the damage that's been done can actually be fixed. It may not be exactly, oh, look, I've put the dent back the way it was, right? So that you can't tell that the car was ever dented. It could be a workaround, right? It could be like, okay, I busted up my knee. Now it's fixed, but my knee actually has to work a little bit differently. That's okay as long as the work is done to fix it. And that is not all on the betrayed partner. We can't fix what we broke, but we can help our partners fix it. And that's absolutely vital. So understanding betrayal trauma is huge. It also shows very much we care, because it's no small thing to study it.
Well, there's a saying, whether it be in the corporate world and business or even in the church world and leadership development, that says readers are leaders, right? And
Yeah.
leaders are readers. You can say it both ways, but if you want to heal, pick up a book. If you
Yeah.
want to know more about what your partner's going through, read a book or two, watch a podcast or two. And this is one of the critical elements that the unfaithful doesn't realize. It is all about actions, it's all about effort.
Yeah.
If you would pick up a book or find a podcast or find a meme, I used to tell this client of mine, he's a great guy, I love him to death, and I would say, bro, go onto Instagram and put in the search bar infidelity and find a meme, look at it and send it to your wife and say, hey, I was reading this. I thought this was really insightful. And he did it one time and she was like, what just happened? My husband, the avoidant, is looking for memes to help me. It went a long way. It wasn't just the only thing that he was doing, but it was another little nuance that the betrayed was like, maybe he's getting it.
Yeah, it's one of those pennies in the bank, right? In the trust bank. For a partner just to see that their unfaithful cares enough to be thinking about them. Well, that's the opposite of what they did before. I think the other thing in this is we just have to really remind ourselves that a betrayed doesn't just get over this. And this goes to the patience thing I was talking about before. It takes a much longer time for this to repair because it is trauma. It's not like the set of behaviors that we had when we were acting out, like that we have to, okay, that's really quick, right? I'm not saying it's easy, but it's quick. And then we're sitting there going, well, why aren't they getting better? And that is because you're dealing with trauma, which takes a lot longer because it's so complex and so nuanced. There's so many layers to it that have to be undone. And so many things that it's done, not just physically to our partner's brains, but also to their view of themselves, of the world, of their faith, of so many different things that have now been undermined because everything that seemed steady to them has been undermined. The whole foundation has been torn out. And so we have to really look at it that way, knowing that it's going to take a long time, knowing that, guess what, we're along for that journey. If we're all in like that for the long term, then we're doing what's right rather than one of the five things that says we're not sorry.
Well, trying to help heal yourself and heal your partner is not going to be convenient. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be cheap. There is no hack. There is no workaround. The only way that you're going to do it is by, of course, doing the work. Now, number three, I'm going to tee it up for you because you have a lot to say on this, but this is a place where a lot of unfaithful get hung up and they get defensive. They might even get a little bit narcissistic. And that is not living an overly transparent life. Without transparency, without honesty, the betrayed partner will never feel safe. Am I right?
Oh, you are 100%, 110% right. We have to assume that our partner needs to know everything that we have planned in our life. So notice I wasn't saying everything about everything that we did because there are limits there. And this is where professional help is really good. You can't make up your own mind what you're going to limit and what you're not,
Well
because then
said. Well said.
you're always going to fall on the side of not enough if you do that. So the problem then is if we just decide, well, I'll say everything, then we're potentially, most likely, going to do harm. So hurt is okay because sometimes the truth hurts. But where it does harm, things like, well, I can't unsee that now that I have that image in my head, or I can't
Yeah.
forget that you did that because you were thinking at the time that I'm overweight or this or that. A partner can't forget that stuff. So you have to have guidance to know what's okay and what's not. And so, yeah, if you decide what's okay and what's not, now you're making two errors. One, like I said, you're probably not going to say enough, you'll withhold. And two, you're now continuing to have control over your partner's decisions, over your partner's choices, which you took away when you were acting out. They didn't know. So they're making decisions about the relationship, about life, based on what you were presenting to them, but that wasn't real. So what am I saying? That causes harm. Okay, so no secrets, right? One, our partner's going to know everywhere we're going, everything we have planned, so that can find us reliable and predictable. That's so
Yeah.
vital. The no secrets part, look, secrets keep our relationship sick. So truth gets it healthy. Again, the difference between hurt and harm is it can be nuanced. So we can't just be really black and white and say, okay, I'm not saying anything or I'm saying everything. We can't do that. So guidance is really, really helpful there. The other part is, oh, well, now I've got to tell all the truth. So blah, 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 blah. And then there's a resentment, right? There's that underlying anger. And when there's that resentment or underlying anger, that can cause us to tell more truth than is going to be okay for our partner to handle. Because then it's about being passive aggressive. Well, I told you the truth, you know,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you whatever, right? And then I've done harm because now what have I done? I've increased the problem for a partner of always comparing him or herself, the affair partner. Why is that person better than me? It can be looks, it can be smarts, it can be loving, nurture, whatever, right? Any characterization you can have that can make the betrayed feel less than. We have to know what we're doing because otherwise we can form those resentments and those are going to come out sideways, causing more harm.
And that's where, when you have the right person helping, you can know the basic do's and don'ts. Man, infidelity recovery is the wild, wild west right now. We got everybody and their mother talking about they know this and they know that. And we got people saying, I hate to say it, no offense, but we got so many people coming to you and I and Sharon and so many other clinicians that said, I went to someone that said they were an expert in infidelity and things got massively worse. And it's not always the fault of the clinician, but sometimes it really is because people think that they know, but they've never been through it and they don't understand it. And so finding the right people with the right pathway is going to help you know the basic do's and don'ts to help you both heal, not at the expense of one or the other, but what is going to be the right pathway that is a win-win.
Uh, I think one of those, I mean, it's a big one. One of those do's is do know what your partner's concrete triggers are. So by concrete triggers, I mean, okay, absolutely that place, that person, that situation, those are things that are going to be triggering for my partner. The better you know those, the more you're able to either avoid them so that they're not exposed to that trigger or to address them if it can't be avoided. Because your best bet, I know that just happened. How are you?
Absolutely. It's
Is that
showing up and leaning in because avoidance never works, right?
right? If we just ignore it, hoping it's going to go away, maybe she didn't notice that we went
Mm.
past that restaurant, or maybe, make the assumption that he or she noticed and ask, are you okay? Talk about it. That says, I care. Ignoring it says, I don't.
And it says, I'm aware. When an unfaithful goes, hey, that may have been a massive trigger. How are you doing? The betrayed might go, no, that wasn't a trigger at all. What are you talking about? And then you go, well, I just thought, or what have you. Most of the time, the betrayed might say, It would have been massive, but the fact that you noticed and that you addressed it makes me feel safe.
That happens so often. We even have partners who will bring it up in a couple session. He or she said this when we went past that place or whatever it happens to be. I know I keep using the same example. And that felt really good. Oh, he brought up or she brought up that it was the anniversary of D-Day. It's not a joy, but it is this, wow, he cares. She cares.
And he or she is aware. They're not on autopilot because autopilot is partially what caused the infidelity in the first place. So the fact that he or she is not just in their own world, self absorbed, can say a lot about helping the betrayed be like, maybe they are thinking about someone besides themselves.
Yeah. So this is really, we talk about owning what we did all the time, right? This is sort of an extension of that, an emotional extension of that is really seeing and feeling how this affected our partners. And that is absolutely huge and absolutely necessary.
It's essential. And as you're watching and listening, I hope that you're taking notes because these are just great teaching moments for you to put into practice on a daily basis. If you say, well, I just don't know what I'm doing, hey, listen to this and take notes, write these things down and try them on a daily basis. One of the things early on in recovery that an unfaithful can do is maybe when they come home or when there's a moment to say, hey, how are you doing? How was your day? Did you have any triggers or reminders that I can just support you with or love you? Or how was your thought life today? Because I just don't want you to be alone in this mess that I created, because that's the antithesis of avoidance. That's humility, that's compassion, that's being willing to man or woman up and say, talk to me. I just want to help you feel seen and help you feel loved. Now, the next one, we talk about this a lot. I've said this for, I don't know, 15 or so years in videos, but the fourth sign that the unfaithful is just not sorry yet is not doing the work. So, talk about what that looks like and even what that sounds like, not doing the work.
So we need a plan. If our partners just see us kind of doodling along, we could have the best thing going, like the best structure, the best plan, the best 12-step work, whatever. But if they don't know it, it's not going to help them. So we need a plan and we need to share that plan.
And we can't
And
wing it. There's an old
oh,
saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But so many unfaithful, we just think, I'm so strong. I'm so powerful. We're just going to wing it. No, you're not. There's a funny meme on Instagram where people say, no, you're not. Let me tell you, any unfaithful that says, we're just going to keep on trucking, we're just going to move forward. No, you're not. Because you're dealing with trauma. You're dealing with brain changing, life altering trauma. So the plan is not a cure all, but without a plan,
right.
failure's pretty much on its way, right?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, you fail before you start. In that plan, what it really represents is structure.
Yeah.
It's not just structure for us as unfaithfuls, which we absolutely need. So winging it is not structured. It's flying by the seat of our pants. It's basically allowing our best thinking to guide us, and our best thinking got us into this mess in the first place. So, probably not a great idea. To have a structure for our betrayeds shows them, okay, now this is what he or she is going to do. They are going to do these items, and within those, there are these items. And so, yeah, there's some hope there, right? So if they're doing that, and I see them doing that, they are now, we unfaithful are now reliable and predictable. And I know we say this a lot. There's a reason we talk about reliability and predictability so much. That's because it's needed for our betrayeds to rebuild trust and rebuild that foundation underneath them so they can stand solid. We can't keep it to ourselves. We have to inform our betrayeds about what we're doing.
And
And
let me interject here. You taught me something that I think is so important. You taught me it differently, and I say it this way. You know, the betrayed is like the sonar in a submarine. They are studying you, unfaithful. They are patterning you. Any deviation from your pattern is going to scare the crap out of them. Why? We've already told you why. Go back and listen to the first few points. But the fact is that they need to feel safe. Safety comes from predictability, reliability. What time you're going to be home, where you're going to be. Be where you say you're going to be. Come home when you say you're going to be home. Because even if you leave 15 minutes early, the betrayed goes, okay, why are they doing that? What's going on? The thoughts in their brain are not without reason, my good friend, the unfaithful. So they are patterning you. So you living by the seat of your pants with this do whatever you want, whenever you want, messy, sloppy, unpredictable, you're not going to gain any ground with the betrayed because they are looking for safety. They are looking for reliability, right?
yeah, there has to be something that's measurable.
Yeah.
And progress is difficult to measure. We've talked about that in a few other podcasts. So there are some things that can, and those things are the things that are predictable. You went to 3 meetings this week, or you saw your therapist or your coach this week. I saw you doing your daily reading. All those things are concrete examples for a betrayed to be able to go, okay, I see the work is being put in. There's one foot in front of the other happening here. It doesn't have to be, oh, it's a huge leap. It's really just that consistency of one foot in front of the other. I used to do that all the time. I call it OFIFO, one foot in front of the other. Some days that's all I had was one foot in front of the other. I couldn't see beyond that sometimes, but I did that, and that helped Sharon. So we talked about awareness of the concrete triggers, right? That way we could predict them. There are lots of triggers that are not. I was talking to a client earlier today, and he had this great wording that I'm going to get to in a second. And a prelude to that is to say we're going to become more situationally aware. So you like to say, read the room, man, read the room. I added the
Yeah.
me, but read the room. So situationally aware really means what's happening right now. Like we were talking about, I went past that restaurant, or, oh man, that person showed up at that party, and that person's notorious for being unfaithful to their spouse. So there's a situational awareness that could easily have triggered my partner. So I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah.
So that's situational awareness. Now, this is the word the client used. We have to develop sympathetic awareness. So people mistake the word sympathy as being like a sympathy card. Thank you, Hallmark. Not so much, right? It's sympathy is actually the Latin root is SYM, which means the same. So I'm going to feel the same as you do. Empathy is actually understanding how you might be feeling. So interestingly, when we create the sympathetic awareness, we're really going, how would that make me feel if I were experiencing that?
Absolutely.
What is the deep feeling? It's like, oh God, it's not a feeling that we generally like to go towards, but we need to in order to develop that as close as possible. How is my partner feeling? I can actually feel something of that. We're never going to get the same, right? It's just not going to be, but I'm working at that. What that does is empathy, the understanding, grows humongously from having even a portion of that sympathetic awareness. That's so important.
It's also vital that we as unfaithful do our own deep work. Without doing our work and without an understanding of why we had the affair or the addiction in the first place, how can we help our betrayed feel safe that we won't ever do it again? How do we know what to prevent? How do we know what caused it? How do we know what put ourselves in this position in the first place? So the deep work is a must to be able to help the betrayed feel safe, but also to prevent relapse, right?
Oh, well, absolutely. What drove it? We call it the drivetrain. What drove the behavior? There's always something that drives the behavior, and we typically can't see it. So I'm going to give you this analogy. It's the car restoration analogy. I think I've given it before. Doesn't hurt to repeat it. I decide I'm going to buy an old car, old Porsche, or whatever you like, and it's beat up. Nothing really works well. I'm going to do a full resto on this thing, right? So I take the body off. I just get that looking perfect. I put it back on. I do the interior. I do the brakes. I do everything, and it looks gorgeous. And now I roll it out of the garage, and everybody's going, "Oh, wow, that looks so great. Can I drive it?" No, because I haven't done the engine and transmission.
Right.
So it's like that. I can make everything look good. I can put lipstick on a pig. I can do all these sort of ancillary stuff, and I look really good. If I don't fix the drivetrain, I'm not going anywhere. And the biggest problem with that is if I don't know what drives my behaviors, I'm going to start repeating those behaviors in one way or another. And I'm going to do the same kind of damage that I've already done, which is to myself as well as my partner. We've gotten a few comments like, oh, why do you always got to go to that childhood stuff? And why do you always say that it's not just behavioral and such? Here's the key, man. If you don't believe that there is deeper stuff that you're not fully conscious of, or that indeed you're unconscious of, it means that you were thoroughly conscious of it when you were acting out and doing this, which makes you, hmm, use whatever term you want.
It's a real sad reality that people so easily get triggered and angry. Why does it always be in childhood? Well, if you are a betrayed, it's not that we're trying to make an excuse. It's not that we're trying to say, come on, go easy on them. They had childhood trauma. But if they don't understand why they did it, how can they prevent it from happening again in the future? The other thing is, man, if you don't heal the pain that caused this in the first place, listen, we're not afraid of relapse the first couple of months, few weeks. We're afraid of relapse when life gets back to seemingly normal. 6 months, 12 months, a year, 2, 3, 4 years down the road. Now, if you come from faith, this will resonate with you. If you don't come from faith, you can translate it a different way. But I heard this message when I was in my 20s. This guy said this one day. He said, I marvel at the patience of hell. And you might not believe in heaven or hell, but listen, you will marvel at the patience of the unhealed childhood trauma within us that will self sabotage us time and time and time again. And so you can say, oh, I don't want to talk about all that stuff all you want, but it's going to come out sideways as it's already come out. So maybe be a little bit courageous. Maybe investigate that a little bit. It might actually set you free or set your partner free.
Yeah, nice.
So we come to the fifth and final one, and I love the verbiage that you have used in our previous podcast. And the fifth way for the unfaithful to not be sorry, to not be empathetic, to really not be safe, if you will, is by not making their life a living amends.
Living amends is where we live in a way that acknowledges the betrayal by consistently living in a way that doesn't repeat it and compensates emotionally for it. That's so vital because guess what? To do that, we have to do that every day. We have to live our amends every day. It's not enough to say, I'm sorry, or even the formal amends that we've talked about before. That's a really good amends in the moment. But every day living a different life, living the person that we want to be, living those repairs and amends is the only way to do this.
A great friend of ours says this all the time. I've been in co-joint sessions with her, and she says, "Look, it's never going to be a one shot, one kill. I wrote a letter, I did an amends, I apologized, I did a disclosure, we did a couple sessions. It never works that way. It's not going to work that way. You have altered the literal brain of another person. That's going to take time. But healing is possible. But if you think this is a one shot, one kill, just couple things here, a couple things there, and that you could wing it. On behalf of James and I, we beg of you, find an expert that can help you understand that is not the way of healing. That is the way of relapse. That is the way of regression. That is the way of sabotage. Right, James?
Yeah, because of that drivetrain. If we're not paying attention to this, really clear, focused attention on what we're doing and on how we are healing, then it's going to fall apart. We have seen so many people fall flat on their face. I've fallen flat on my face
Uh,
emotionally and so on.
oh, I've needed plastic surgery from how many times I have just face planted in pride and ignorance. I'll never forget. And we'll end with this story, but I'll never forget. I was in a meeting with Rick early on, and Rick Reynolds is a great friend of mine. And I'll never forget one day he said, "You know what, Sam, if you'd shut up for a minute, I'd make you understand what you're doing." And I said, "Well, it's about time that we started talking like that. Let's go, Rick, tell me." And he'd tell me, and I was like, I think you're right. And I think I need to eat a crab sandwich because you're exactly right. And I just had to take it. But ask yourself, you unfaithful, do you have anybody in your life who's an expert who can call it like it is? Do you have anybody in your life that you trust enough to say, look, I don't want all the cliches, the pageantry. Just tell me like it is. Be kind, but be straightforward. Just give me the truth because I am in a foxhole and I don't know where to run. I don't know where to go, and I'm alone and I'm by myself. I need somebody in my foxhole. So if you're watching and listening today, we'd love to jump in the foxhole with you. That might be an intensive, that might be doing coaching sessions. We don't know. But if you think that you can do this on your own, on behalf of James and I and so many others who've been where you're at, please stop. Please humble yourself and ask for help. You can email us at asktheunfaithful@gmail.com. You can leave a comment here on whatever platform that you're watching or listening. We know what you're feeling. Well, I don't know. Yes, it hasn't been a century. We know what you're feeling and we can empathize with you. And we're so honored that you've tuned in today. If there's one thing I would leave with you, James said it. Practice some deep sympathetic awareness with your partner this week. And if you can't, that might be a sign it's time to reach out and get expert help. We'll see you next time on Ask the Unfaithful.